Hi there, quilting friends. It's Reed from Blue Bear Quilts, and this is my South Seas Shuffle Quilt. It's a project that I made as an Island Batik Ambassador for January using one of their gradation collections called Brilliant Blues. The idea behind a gradation collection is that it has the different values of light, medium, and dark in each colorway, and I believe there are 10 different colorways of the gradation fabrics. So in order to make this quilt, you have to sew a lot of flying geese units. And this is a flying geese unit right here. This little part is a flying geese unit. So the units that you make, there will be 3 of those sewn together, and you're going to have to make about 36 of those units. You'll also notice that there is a little square right here. And in order to sew this unit, which has 4 of the flying geese units surrounding that little square, it is necessary to sew a partial seam. Now don't be afraid of that partial seam, it's really not hard. In this video I'm going to give you some tips for how to sew the flying geese units together and also for how to sew that partial seam unit. So let's get started. So the next thing you're going to do after you've got your half square triangles is you're going to sew them in groups of 3, and they always go light, medium, and dark. And if you have a hard time telling from your batiks what's light, medium, and dark, one trick can be to take a picture of your fabric with your cell phone and then edit it so that it's in the black and white monochromatic, and you'll be able to see the different values very easily when you do that. So as you're sewing this together, you also want to be careful that you keep your nice crisp points. So when you're sewing it together, you may want to watch to see where those intersecting lines are so that you will get those nice crisp points. Now I have the top of the quilt laid out here. And these are the first 2 rows. And I've already sewn the first row together, so you can see it goes a unit of 3 facing to the left and then 1 facing down, and then we have some extra white spacing up here at the top, and then it repeats. We have another one facing to the left, another one down with the white spacing, and then the last one also has the white spacing, 1 facing to the left, 1 down, and white spacing on the end. Then as we come down to the second row, we'll see that this is one of the units you need to sew. It has the white spacing with a unit of 3 facing up and a unit of 3 facing to the left. And there's another one at the other end of row 2 that does the same thing, except they face a little different. This one, it's facing to the right and facing down and has the extra white spacing. Now, one thing that you're going to notice that's a little different is these units right here are all going to get sewn together, but they can't just automatically be sewn together because it needs to be a partial seam. You can see that there's no way that you could sew these 2 pieces together and then continue on with that one. It just doesn't work. So you start off with the square in the middle and you bring it down to this piece. And then you sew it on here and you sew a partial seam. You start sewing there and you sew about halfway and then stop. And then what that's going to do later is it will allow you to attach this together when it's a partial seam. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine now and I will sew from there to there, and I'll come back and show you what it looks like after I've done. Now when I was talking about those intersecting lines, this is what I'm talking about. When you're sewing, you probably want to look at this and see that your line, your stitching line, is going to go inside of that point, and that's what gives you those nice perfect points. Now for this piece that we've added, we want to press this towards the we want to press it away from the white square. So the way we do that is we turn it over, we press on this side, flip it up like this and press, and you can see that it's a partial seam. It hasn't been sewn right there. So then once that's been done, we lay it back like this, and here's our unit again. So now you notice that this piece lines up with this piece, so we're going to flip this on top of there, and that will be the next piece that we sew. And we're going to sew from down here at the bottom all the way up to the top along that whole side, and I'll show you that once I've done that. So this one has now been sewn on there, so it's been sewn all the way along there, and we want to press away from the white square. So again, we're going to put it on the top. We'll press like this, press up, finger press first, and there we go. We have another side added, and notice we still have that nice sharp point. So again, on the back, as you're sewing pieces together, you want to make sure that you're not stitching inside of this triangular point right here. You want your stitch to be outside of that point. So that's what it looks like with the white piece. And then here I've done another one. This one was done with a triangular piece. So again, we're going to press away from the white. So we put this on top, press like this, finger press and press it. And there we go. It's the same thing. And again, you want to make sure that these points are ending up in the correct places. So now that we have these two pieces on, the next piece to add is going to be this one up here at the top. So now this one needs to get added, and it's going to get flipped over like that and line up with the square, the top there, and this edge over here, and we're going to stitch all the way along there. I'll be back after I've done that. Now we've added this piece to the unit, and we want to press it again away from the white square. So we're going to press from this side and finger press it, and there we go. So now we have 3 of the sections around that square, and we have to add this 4th piece right here. So we're now going to take this one and flip it over like this, and here's where the partial seam starts to come in handy. So because this has not been sewn, because this little part hasn't been sewn, it will be possible for me to match that up there and match it up there, and I'm going to sew from there to there, and when I come back I'll show you what I did and show you the last part of making this partial seam. The last piece that was sewn on was this piece, and because this had not been sewn here, we were able to sew all the way to this end, all the way to this end. We want to press away from the white square, So again, we're going to put this on top, press like this, and press like that. And notice that we're still getting those nice points. So here we have this last seam, and this is the partial seam that hasn't been sewed. So see, this one now needs to be sewn from here to here, but it's only partially sewn here, so we're going to sew the rest of this. So to accomplish that, we basically flip this like this. We're going to line this up. Sorry about that. And then we're going to sew from here where it was partially sewn all the way to the end up here. And once I've done that, I'll come back and show it to you. Now we have this partial seam block totally sewn, and the last seam was here, and we basically sewed from up there down here where we met up with where we had previously sewn a partial seam, and then again we want to press away from the white square, so we pressed it this direction, and there was one, and there it is. That's the completed block. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this piece that's next to it, fold that over, and sew along there and start joining these units in the row together. There's one other thing I wanted to show you on the back, and that is when you have all these points coming together and they're all going in so many different directions that it's really hard to determine a consistent pressing thing. So sometimes in order to get these intersections to butt up with each other and to press nice and flat, it is necessary to clip the seam a little bit. And so that's what you'll see that I've done in several places here in order to get the block to lay nice and flat. But those are your partial seam units and how they are sewn together. I hope you've enjoyed this video of how to sew the partial seam in the South Seas Shuffle Quilt. There will be a pattern available on our website soon, at www.bluebearquilts.com. And we'll see you next time in the next video. Bye-bye.